Oh boy! In one day, we got the best looking Mega Man since Mega Man 6, and a bunch of Pokemon announcements. And man, are things polarizing. So let's sit down and talk about the big one, Pokemon Let's Go, Pikachu and Eevee. And I mean that. I'd like to hear if you agree with my assessment or have different opinions. So leave a comment. A lot of people say this is ruining the series, or calling it a spin-off. But the Pokemon Company is calling this pair Core Series games, and I agree. I don't see it exactly as a successor to previous core games, more as something like a Mega Man X, in that it is a different take on the core series. Looking at Pokemon Let's Go, it really just seems like baby's first Pokemon, and I don't mean that in a bad way. The games seem like how you might expect Pokemon would play if you had only ever seen the cartoon. My nieces and nephew love Pokemon from watching the cartoon, playing the spin-offs like Pokemon Go and Pokken, collecting the cards and playing Smash Brothers. But they've never had a chance to play core Pokemon, and I expect they will want one of these games. And I think they would be perfect to get them familiar with the core games without overwhelming them with all the complexities like IVs, EVs, natures, hidden abilities, berry farming, move tutoring, and everything else. They can start getting into that as the next step. The other group I see it appealing to and serving a similar gateway experience to are all the people who have never played a Pokemon game besides Pokemon Go. Because let's face it, that is most people. Only tens of millions play the core games, out of billions of people. But over 100 million have played Pokemon Go, and the core games will be as overwhelming to them. In their press release, they even positioned Let's Go as a next step for these people in particular. I also have to admit, most of these changes aren't that big of a deal, and I'd like to see cross over into the more traditional games. Drop in and out co-op is something I absolutely think is an improvement, and I will be disappointed if it doesn't make it into next year's games. While I don't want battling feral Pokemon to go away next year, I do like the idea of having a catching minigame that can boost your catch rate. I see that combined with the weakening mechanic as a huge improvement. If you get good at throwing the balls ideally, you can make catching that legendary much easier once you weaken it, rather than just throwing balls and occasionally full healing for 20 minutes. Maybe future games could even remove the wild battling as an option, like you can toggle between classic and Let's Go catching modes. I also think removing random encounters is another great change. It immerses you by bringing the Pokemon into the world. It could make completing the Pokedex easier if, say, there's an 80% chance all the Pokemon in a route will spawn on any given visit. Pokemon is an extremely deep game, so simplifying some things isn't really a problem. Sure, you catch them all easier, but you still will have to breed and train to get the perfect version or find a shiny. Oh, and yeah, and like seeing a shiny in the overworld, that'd be super exciting. I'd just like to see a lot of the service level stuff become more simplified, and see the deeper stuff like IVs, EVs, natures, and abilities get more complex and nuanced. Oh, and I do want clothing for Pokemon to become a thing. I also think Eevee might be the most likely Pokemon to be added to Smash Brothers now. They've been building this up for a really long time, and Eevee is a pretty iconic Pokemon that could bring something very interesting to the table with its many evolutions. I could see it maybe having a counter move that absorbs elemental attacks into a stone and allow it to evolve when used again until it is KO'd, slightly changing its moves. Like fire attacks would let you evolve into Flareon, and dark attacks would let you evolve into Umbreon. Eevee might be able to use Swift for one of its specials, hitting a wide but close angle for weak damage. Flareon might have the narrower but long range Incinerate that gets slightly wider the further away you are, and has a chance to destroy a held item per hit. Jolteon might use Thunderbolt, which will turn once or twice in the direction of the nearest target. Espeon could fire an undulating Psy Wave, and Umbreon could spit a Shadow Ball out, and so on for each special. Standard moves getting much smaller changes like just fire or ice effects. Again though, what do you think about Pokemon Let's Go and the changes it's making?